Hey everyone, and welcome. If you've ever worked with data, you know the real struggle isn't just getting it, it's making any sense of it all. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a tool that does just that, AWS Glue. Let's get right into it.
So, picture this. Your company has all this amazing, valuable data, but it's completely trapped. It's scattered everywhere in S3 buckets as JSON files, sitting in RDS databases, maybe in a bunch of CSVs from who knows where. The dream, of course, is to bring it all together for some powerful insights. But the reality? It's usually just a tangled mess that actually slows you down.
All right, so here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the data problem itself. Then we'll meet AWS Glue, our solution. After that, we'll break down its two main jobs, cataloging and transforming data. And we'll wrap up with why being serverless makes it such a huge deal.
So let's really dig into this modern data problem for a second. Why is this so tough to crack with the old school methods?
I mean, just think about it. You've got data in S3, in relational databases like RDS, even in NoSQL databases like DynamoDB. And it's in every format you can imagine, CSV, JSON, Parquet, you name it. The goal is super clear. Funnel it all into a data warehouse like Amazon Redshift and find those golden nuggets of insights. But the challenge? The old way of doing this means your smartest engineers are burning weeks just building pipelines and babysitting servers. That's time they are not spending finding value in the data.
And this right here is where our hero enters the story. Let's meet AWS Glue, the service that was literally built to solve this exact kind of data headache.
Okay, so at its heart, AWS Glue is what we call a fully managed ETL service. That's extract, transform, and load. Now, the two magic words here are serverless and fully managed. What that really means is your data engineers can stop being server administrators and finally start being data strategists. AWS takes care of all the underlying infrastructure so your team can just focus on the data itself. And this just lays it out perfectly. It's a night and day difference. The old way, you were basically a systems admin. You were spinning up Spark clusters, manually writing code, and constantly worrying if you had enough capacity for the next big job. With the Glue way, you just focus on what you want to do with the data. It's totally serverless, it can literally write the starter code for you, it scales up and down automatically, and get this, you only pay for the resources you use right down to the second.
So how does it pull all this off? Well, Glue really boils down to two key parts. First, you've got the data catalog. I love this analogy of a library card catalog for all your data. It's what makes everything findable. And second, you've got the ETL engine. This is the muscle. It's a powerful Spark engine that does all the heavy lifting of transforming your data, all without you ever having to provision or even see a server. Okay, let's zoom in on that first function, because this is where it all begins, cataloging your data. This is the crucial first step that keeps your data lake from turning into a data swamp. It's such a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. I mean, before you can do anything cool with your data, you have to know what you have, what it looks like, and where it is. The data catalog becomes that single source of truth for every piece of data you own, no matter where it's stored. And how does Glue build this amazing catalog? With this really clever little thing called a crawler. You can honestly think of it as an automated data librarian. Seriously, a task that used to take a team weeks of manual documentation in some messy spreadsheet can now be done automatically in just a few minutes. You just point it at your data, and it goes to work. And the process itself is just so simple. All you do is tell the crawler, hey, see that S3 bucket over there? That's where my customer data lives. The crawler then just dives in, scans all the files, figures out the schema on its own, this column is a string, that one is a date, and boom, it creates that card catalog entry for you. No more manual work. It's fantastic. Now, this right here is the immediate payoff, and it is a huge deal. As soon as that metadata exists in the catalog, you can use a service like Amazon Athena to run standard SQL queries directly on your raw files sitting in S3. This is a total game changer. It means any data analyst who knows basic SQL can now start exploring massive datasets right away without having to wait for an engineer to build a pipeline first.
Okay, so our data is discovered, it's cataloged. Awesome, but what's next? Now we get to the really fun part, preparing it for analysis through transformation. And let's be honest, when is it ever clean? Real-world data is always messy, right? You've got weird date formats, you've got empty fields, you've got data you need to join from 10 different places. This is exactly what Glue's ETL jobs are for. This data chef analogy is just perfect. A Glue ETL job takes your raw ingredients, your source data, and it follows a recipe, which is your transformation logic, to cook up a perfect final dish. And you know what the best part is? A lot of the time, Glue can actually auto-generate the first draft of that recipe for you.
Here's a super basic but really common example. Let's say our source data has a couple of phone number fields we just don't need for our analysis. A simple Glue job can read that data, drop those columns, and write out a new, much cleaner data set. Now, that might seem small, but when you scale that across billions of rows, that one simple step can save you a ton of money on storage and processing later on.
All right, let's tie this all together now and talk about why the fact that AWS Glue is serverless is so incredibly important. So here's the bottom line. Glue fundamentally changes the economics of how you process data. Instead of paying for a big cluster of servers to sit around waiting 24/7, you only pay for the 5 or 10 minutes your job is actually running. For a lot of jobs, that can mean saving over 90% on costs. It scales effortlessly from tiny jobs to massive petabyte scale ones, and it's so tightly integrated with everything else in AWS that it just works.
And this isn't just theory, right? This is happening out in the real world. E-commerce companies are using Glue to figure out what you're going to buy next. Healthcare providers are using it to combine patient records to spot disease trends. Financial firms use it to calculate risk across millions of trades. It's become the essential plumbing that powers modern data intelligence.
So that's AWS Glue in a nutshell. It's more than just a tool. It's a whole new strategy. It lets you take what is often a company's biggest headache, all that messy, siloed data, and turn it into your most powerful asset. It truly takes you from data chaos to data clarity. So the only question left for you is, what chaos in your world is ready for a little clarity?